The Black Sea, September 2022. Under the cover of darkness, a flotilla of Ukrainian submarine drones closes in on the Russian naval fleet anchored in occupied Crimea. A high-stakes, high-tech counteroffensive. On screens thousands of miles away, commanders watch the live feeds, dots of light moving toward much larger dots of light. Then, nothing. The screens go black, the drones, unpiloted, drift aimlessly and wash ashore. The mission is a failure. What happened wasn't an act of jamming by an enemy state. It wasn't a software glitch. It was a choice. A single phone call made by one man, an unelected civilian, who decided in that moment to redraw the battlefield of a sovereign war. This is the power we have handed over. We've been told a story, sold a mythology about a real-life Tony Stark, a savior who will colonize Mars, electrify our world, and link our brains to the cloud. We see the rockets, we see the cars, we see the memes, but behind the curtain of this engineered reality is a different story. A story of taxpayer-funded life support, of silenced whistleblowers and suppressed safety data, of geopolitical blackmail, and of a relentless, unnerving quest for absolute control. Tonight, we don't look at the myth, we look at the math, we don't listen to the tweets, we listen to the testimony. We peel back a decade of public relations to uncover the operating system of the most influential and perhaps most dangerous private citizen in the world. This is not the story of how Elon Musk built his empire. This is the story of how he built the idea of himself and how that idea might just consume us all. Every mythology needs an origin story. For Elon Musk, it's the well-worn tale of the immigrant underdog arriving in North America from South Africa with, in his own words, a couple $1,000s, a suitcase, and a head full of dreams. It's a powerful narrative, the foundation of a self-made man who built his kingdom from nothing. But the history of the Musk family fortune is complicated. For years, the official story was one of a modest, middle-class upbringing, a story that erased a crucial detail, a detail that came not from a critic, but from his own father, Elon Musk, an engineer and property developer in apartheid-era South Africa. In interviews, Errol has described a life of immense privilege. He once told a reporter, "We were very wealthy. We had so much money at times we couldn't even close our safe." At the heart of this wealth was a story about an emerald mine. According to Errol, he once traded half ownership of a small airplane for a 50% stake in a Zambian emerald mine. He recounted stories of walking into fancy jewelers in Johannesburg with pockets full of emeralds. Elon Musk has repeatedly and vehemently denied this. He has called his father a terrible human being and claims he gained nothing from any such mine. He insists his journey began on his own terms. The truth may be lost to family history and conflicting accounts, but the discrepancy itself is the point. The first pillar of the Musk mythology required the erasure of privilege. To become a hero for the common man, he couldn't start the race at the finish line. He had to be an outsider, an underdog. This crafting of a public persona wasn't a side project, it was the main event. It began even before the billions. Consider PayPal, the company that gave him his first fortune. The official story is that Musk was a key founder who cashed out $180 million. The full story is a bit more awkward. In late 2000, while Musk was on his honeymoon, the other executives and board members staged a coup. According to Eric Jackson, an early PayPal executive who wrote a book on the subject, they were fed up. Musk, as CEO, was allegedly pushing to move the company's entire infrastructure from the stable Unix platform to a Microsoft-based system, a move the engineers fiercely resisted. While he was away, the board fired him and reinstalled Peter Thiel as CEO. Musk didn't fight it. He was still the largest shareholder. When eBay bought PayPal, he made his fortune. But he learned a crucial lesson. Having the best idea wasn't enough. Having the money wasn't enough. You had to control the narrative. In the years that followed, this became his obsession. While other tech CEOs gave boring keynote speeches, Musk began to operate like a Hollywood showman. He wasn't just selling a product, he was selling a role in a story about the future, a future you could buy into with a Tesla, or even just by believing in him. But to build the hardware for that future, rockets, gigafactories, tunnels under cities, he needed something more than venture capital. He needed something more than a good story. He needed a benefactor, the biggest one on earth. He needed you, the American taxpayer. December 24th, 2008, Christmas Eve. The world is in the grips of a financial meltdown. And in California, two of Elon Musk's fledgling companies are on the verge of total collapse. SpaceX had endured 3 catastrophic failures of its Falcon 1 rocket. Tesla was burning through cash, struggling to deliver its first roadster with a payroll due the next day it allegedly couldn't meet. In his own words, Musk was down to his last few $100,000. He had a choice: save one company or let both die. This is the moment in the hero's journey where the protagonist pulls a rabbit out of a hat. But the rabbit wasn't magic, it was a government contract. At 7:30 p.m., that Christmas Eve, Musk got a call. It was NASA. SpaceX had just been awarded a $1.6 billion commercial resupply services contract to run cargo missions to the International Space Station, a lifeline. That same week, Tesla's investors reluctantly agreed to a last-ditch funding round, saving it from bankruptcy by mere hours. But the pattern was set. Musk famously champions free markets and rails against government subsidies. He has called himself averse to the government, but a landmark 2015 investigation by the Los Angeles Times calculated that Musk's companies, Tesla, SpaceX, and SolarCity, had benefited from an estimated $4.9 billion in government support, billions in tax breaks, grants, environmental credits, discounted utility rates, and massive federal contracts. Today, that number is believed to be far, far higher. The subsidy tracking group, Good Jobs First, estimates the total is now well over $5 billion just in direct subsidies and grants, not including the value of government contracts. SpaceX is now one of the Pentagon's most critical partners, launching spy satellites for the National Reconnaissance Office. Tesla didn't become consistently profitable by selling cars alone. For years, its profits were almost entirely dependent on selling regulatory credits. Under government regulations, automakers who don't produce enough zero-emission vehicles must buy credits from companies that do, like Tesla. So competitors like General Motors and Fiat Chrysler were literally paying Tesla hundreds of millions of dollars a year just to stay in business. The self-made man, the ultimate free market capitalist, was running an empire built on a foundation of government policy and taxpayer funds. He wasn't just a beneficiary of the system became his business model. Now, flush with public money and public trust, Musk could finally deliver on his grand promises. A new era of sustainable transport, a future where cars drove themselves. But what happens when the product doesn't live up to the promise? What happens when the marketing becomes a matter of life and death? March 23rd, 2018. Walter Huang, a 38-year-old Apple engineer, is driving his Tesla Model X on Highway 101 in Mountain View, California. He has autopilot engaged. The anemic, gravel-covered area between the highway and an off-ramp, known as the Gore Point, is separated from the lanes of traffic by a concrete median. The crash attenuator at the front of the barrier, a crucial safety device, had been damaged in a previous crash and not replaced. Huang's Tesla, a vehicle marketed on its futuristic intelligence, did not register the barrier. According to National Transportation Safety Board investigators, in the final seconds before impact, the car actually accelerated. It slammed into the concrete barrier at over 70 miles per hour. The vehicle was obliterated. First responders found Walter Huang dead. His was not the first death associated with Tesla's autopilot, and it wouldn't be the last. For years, Elon Musk had been making a spectacular promise. He claimed in 2016 that by the end of the next year, a Tesla would be able to drive itself from a parking lot in California to a parking lot in New York without a single human touch. That deadline came and went, and so did the next one, and the next, but the marketing never stopped. They called the system autopilot. Later, they would sell a package called full self-driving. The names themselves created a sense of security, a suggestion that the car was more capable than it was. But internal documents and whistleblower testimonies paint a deeply disturbing picture of what was allegedly happening inside the company. According to a 2023 investigative report from Reuters, a team of engineers became so alarmed by the marketing claims versus the technology's actual capabilities that they created a presentation for company leaders warning of the potential dangers. The technology struggled with what engineers call edge cases: a white truck against a bright sky, a fire truck parked partially in a lane, a concrete lane divider. The problem wasn't just the crashes, it was the response. As complaints flooded in from customers about phantom braking, erratic behavior, and wildly optimistic battery range estimates, Tesla reportedly created a secret team in Las Vegas. According to the Reuters investigation, which cited internal documents, this was a diversion team. Their mission: to cancel as many service appointments related to these issues as possible. Managers allegedly told employees they were saving the company thousands of dollars for every appointment they canceled, and they tracked the team's progress on a spreadsheet. Why? Why allegedly go to such lengths to manage complaints? Because Tesla's astronomical stock market valuation wasn't based on it being a car company. Honda is a car company. Ford is a car company. Tesla was valued as a tech company, an AI company. And if the foundational AI, the software that was supposed to change the world, was flawed, or worse, a lie, then the entire trillion-dollar house of cards could come crashing down. The pressure was immense. And as the scrutiny grew, so did the fragility of the man at the top. The world was about to get a glimpse of how the mythmaker responds when his story is challenged. Not with data, but with brute force. The summer of 2018. A junior soccer team and their coach are trapped deep inside the Tham Luang Cave network in Thailand. The world is watching, breathless. It's a crisis of logistics, engineering, and human endurance. For Elon Musk, it was allegedly a public relations opportunity. He directed his engineers to build a kid-sized submarine using parts from a Falcon rocket. He flew it to Thailand himself. But the divers on the ground, the experts actually performing the heroic rescue, saw it as a publicity stunt. The rigid tube was impractical for navigating the cave's tight twisting passages. Vernon Unsworth, a British diver who played a key role in the rescue, was blunt. In a CNN interview, he said Musk could stick his submarine where it hurts. The comment lit a fuse. Elon Musk, a billionaire with over 20 million Twitter followers at the time, didn't issue a press release. He didn't debate the technical merits. He went nuclear. He logged on to a global platform and tweeted to the world that Unsworth was a pedo guy. There was no evidence, no basis for the claim. It was a raw, impulsive attack on the character of a man being hailed as a hero. Unsworth sued for defamation. The legal battle that followed was a masterclass in the Musk operational playbook. His lawyers argued that pedo guy was a common dismissive insult in South Africa, where he grew up, not a literal accusation. Musk himself hired a private investigator, a man who reportedly had a criminal record, to dig up dirt on Unsworth. According to court filings, the investigator pitched conspiracy theories involving child brides and a shady expat network. Nothing ever materialized. In the end, the jury found Musk not liable. He had won in court, but the mask had slipped. The public witnessed a man with immense power using his platform not to innovate, but to obliterate a critic. This volatility wasn't just personal. It was about to spill over into the financial markets in a way that would trigger a war with federal regulators. August 7, 2018. At 12:48 p.m. Eastern Time, Elon Musk tweeted 2 words that would cost him and his investors millions. Funding secured. He was proposing to take Tesla private at $420 a share. A significant premium. The stock surged. It was chaotic. Was it real? The Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, launched an investigation. They alleged that the funding was, in fact, not secured. According to their complaint, Musk hadn't even discussed the specific deal terms with any potential financing partners. The $420 price, they alleged, was chosen because he had recently learned about the number's significance in marijuana culture and thought his girlfriend at the time would find it funny. Musk and Tesla settled with the SEC. They each paid a $20 million fine. Musk was forced to step down as chairman of the board and agree to have his tweets about the company pre-approved by a lawyer. But he didn't learn humility. He learned contempt. He began publicly mocking the SEC, calling them the Short Seller Enrichment Commission. He turned the very agency designed to protect the integrity of the market into a villain in his personal drama, a punchline for his millions of followers. He was testing the limits of the system. He had used his platform to attack a person. Now he had used it to move a multi-billion-dollar market on a whim. Next, he would allegedly use it to pump a joke, a cryptocurrency with a Shiba Inu for a mascot, Dogecoin. Millions of retail investors, hanging on his every word, poured their life savings into the meme coin as he tweeted about it. The price soared and then crashed. A class action lawsuit later accused Musk of running a pyramid scheme, alleging he manipulated the currency's price for his own benefit. The case is ongoing. It was perhaps a dress rehearsal, a test of his power to move decentralized markets beyond the reach of the SEC. If he could create and destroy billions in value with a picture of a dog, what else could he do? He was about to show us by buying the digital town square itself and setting it on fire. The final frontier for the empire of Musk wasn't space. It wasn't energy. It was information. In April 2022, Elon Musk launched the most audacious takeover in modern corporate history, a $44 billion bid to buy Twitter. The price was so high, so inflated, that even he tried to back out of the deal before being forced by a court to go through with it. His stated reason was noble. He was a free speech absolutist, he claimed. He wanted to save Twitter from censorship and restore it as a bastion of open dialogue. A year later, the platform was renamed X. 70% of its top advertisers had fled. Hate speech had reportedly flourished, and his free speech absolutism didn't seem to apply in countries like Turkey or India, where the platform complied with government censorship requests to take down content critical of their leaders. The free speech argument began to look like a smokescreen. So what was the real play? To understand the acquisition of Twitter, you have to understand Musk's other, more secretive project, an AI company he named XAI. Its mission? To build an artificial intelligence to understand the true nature of the universe. To build a powerful AI, you need one thing more than anything else: data. Massive amounts of it. The largest, most current, most human data set of conversation on the planet. Twitter was the ultimate training ground. By buying Twitter, he wasn't buying a social media company. He was acquiring the central nervous system of global conversation. He could feed it into his new AI, Grok. He was building a closed-loop information ecosystem. SpaceX puts the satellites in the sky. Starlink beams the internet. X becomes the everything app where we live our digital lives. And XAI understands and maybe even predicts our every thought. But to truly achieve his ultimate vision of a symbiosis with AI controlling our public data wasn't enough. He needed to get inside our heads, literally. Neuralink, the brain-machine interface. The promise is a miracle: to cure paralysis, blindness, and other neurological disorders with a brain chip. The first human patient received an implant in early 2024, a landmark achievement. But behind that achievement lies a trail of allegations so disturbing they triggered a federal investigation. Internal company records obtained by Reuters, along with damning testimony from current and former employees, paint a picture of a chaotic and brutal research environment. They allege that since 2018, the company has killed approximately 1,500 animals in its experiments, including over 280 sheep, pigs, and monkeys. The deaths themselves are not the primary issue. Animal testing is standard in this kind of research. The issue, according to these former employees, was the unacceptable suffering caused by a rushed, high-pressure culture driven by Musk's demands to move faster. Whistleblowers described surgeons using the wrong surgical glue, causing 2 monkeys to die in agony. An incorrectly sized device implanted in pigs. A device implanted in the wrong spinal location on another animal. Primates developing bloody infections, scratching at their implant sites, allegedly suffering from what one scientist called pretty extreme suffering. A former employee claimed that Musk once told staff to pretend they had a bomb strapped to their heads to force them to work faster. The biological reality, that living tissue doesn't iterate like software, was allegedly ignored. The logic is terrifyingly consistent. The cars, the rockets, the brain chips, a pattern of moving at the speed of thought where human and animal life are acceptable collateral damage in the race to the future. This consolidation of power in transportation, in energy, in data, and now in biology was creating a new kind of entity. Not a company, not an innovator, but a sovereign individual. A non-state actor with more geopolitical leverage than most nations. And as war broke out in Europe, the world was about to discover what that meant. At the dawn of the Ukraine invasion, as Russian cyber attacks crippled the country's communications, Elon Musk became a hero. He activated his Starlink satellite internet network over the country, giving Ukraine's military and government a vital, unbreakable link to the outside world. He was lauded, a private citizen providing the communications backbone for a nation under siege. But the gift came with strings, invisible ones at first. The power to provide service is also the power to deny it. We saw it in the Black Sea when Musk personally ordered Starlink to be turned off to thwart the Ukrainian drone attack on the Russian fleet. His justification, detailed in his biography by Walter Isaacson, was that he feared the attack would trigger a nuclear response from Russia. He didn't want SpaceX to be explicitly complicit in a major act of war. Think about that. A private citizen, without consulting any elected government, made a unilateral decision that shaped the course of a major international conflict based on his own personal assessment of geopolitical risk. Pentagon officials were reportedly aghast. They realized they had outsourced a critical piece of national security infrastructure to a man who was accountable to no one. A man whose other major business, Tesla, is deeply dependent on the goodwill of the Chinese government for its manufacturing and sales. He can't be a free speech absolutist online because he needs access to China's market. He can't be a reliable military partner because he fears escalating a war. He operates not on principle, but on a razor's edge of what is best for his interlocking business interests. He is a survival absolutist. This puts the United States and its allies in an impossible position. They need him. SpaceX is, for now, America's only way to get its own astronauts to space from US soil. The Pentagon needs his satellites. The EV market needs his cars. He has made himself indispensable. And now he's integrating himself even further. Under the guise of a new Department of Government Efficiency, he's positioning himself as an advisor to the halls of power in Washington, consulting on budgets and policy. The same government that is his single biggest customer. It is the ultimate act of regulatory capture, auditing the checkbook that pays you. Meanwhile, at the very beginning of this vast high-tech supply chain lies a brutal, low-tech reality. A reality that clashes violently with the image of a clean, green future. Cobalt, a key ingredient in many lithium-ion batteries. A huge portion of the world's cobalt comes from the Democratic Republic of Congo, a country plagued by poverty and corruption. Much of it is extracted in so-called artisanal mines, a euphemism for holes in the ground where miners, including children, work in horrific conditions for $1 or $2 a day. In 2019, Tesla was named as a defendant in a landmark lawsuit brought by human rights advocates on behalf of Congolese families. The suit alleged that children were killed and maimed while mining the very cobalt that powered their clean energy vehicles. Tesla has since pledged to move toward cobalt-free batteries and states its commitment to responsible sourcing. But the supply chain for these critical minerals remains notoriously murky. The contrast is sickening. A future of self-driving cars and trips to Mars built on a present where children reportedly dig through the earth with their bare hands. This is the contradiction at the heart of the empire, and the contradictions are beginning to show in the emperor himself. Reports from the Wall Street Journal and other outlets have detailed concerns among board members at his companies about his alleged erratic behavior and reported drug use, specifically ketamine. Friends and colleagues have described dark moods and impulsive decisions. It has raised the specter of key person risk, the corporate term for what happens when an entire empire rests on the shoulders of one volatile, unpredictable man. He once joked he wants to die on Mars, just not on impact. But back here on Earth, the debris field from his trajectory is growing. Broken promises, crushed critics, and a world that is waking up to the fact that it has placed its faith, its money, and its security in the hands of a man who seems to answer to nothing but his own mythology. We were promised a savior, a real-life superhero in a black t-shirt who would solve traffic, save the planet, and lead us to the stars. And we wanted to believe. So badly. We wanted to believe because the alternative is too terrifying. The alternative is that climate change, political division, and technological disruption are problems too big for any one person to solve. The alternative is that there are no easy answers, there are no shortcuts. Elon Musk didn't build a bridge to the future. He built a mirror, and in that mirror, we see our own reflection, our own desperation for a hero. Every time we cheered his dismissive tweets, we were cheering for a world where conviction matters more than facts. Every time we ignored the dead-end promises of self-driving, we were choosing the story over the reality. Every time we shrugged at the billions in subsidies, we were agreeing that the rules don't apply to the people who promise us the shiniest future. He is radical, ambitious, and undeniably brilliant. But the myth he has constructed, the cult of the genius founder who is above scrutiny, has become a danger to the very systems he claims to be improving. The empire of manipulation only works if we remain willing participants. It feeds on our attention. It thrives on our outrage. It requires us to stay tuned for the next shocking tweet, the next grand announcement, the next rocket launch. But if you look away from the spectacle just for a moment and look at the ledger, you see the truth. This was never about free speech. It was about controlling the conversation. It was never about saving humanity. It was about owning the escape routes. It was never about building a better world. It was about building his world. We are all living in the Elon Musk experiment now. He is the high-frequency trader of our hopes, selling us a future built with our money, our data, and our faith. And the experiment is reaching its chaotic, unpredictable conclusion. The only thing he has truly, fundamentally disrupted is us. If this story opened your eyes, if it made you question something you thought you knew, then do 4 things for us right now. First, hit like on this video to help us fight the algorithm. Second, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss our next investigation. Third, hit the bell for notifications because the truth doesn't follow a schedule. And fourth, comment below with your theory. What is the end game? And then share this video with just one person who needs to see the story behind the myth. Your engagement is the only thing that allows us to keep making documentaries like this one. And in the next episode, we go inside the secretive, multi-billion-dollar world of family court, A system where parental alienation has become a weapon and children are taken from loving homes by an unregulated industry of psychologists and reunification camps that some critics call legal kidnapping for profit. It's a story they do not want told. Until then, stay curious, stay skeptical, and remember, the truth doesn't trend, it waits to be found.